Hey YouTube, it's Andrew here with Burnette's Custom Woodwork. I've been working on a little project of making my dust collector remote operated, and been a lot of interest in it, and people wanted me to make a video of more detailed of how I did it. So this is my first attempt of making an official YouTube video. So we shall see how it works. I'll go ahead and apologize. I'm not the best cameraman. I don't have the best equipment. My slow computer will not let me edit videos, so this is going to be an uncut bloopers and all video. So hope you enjoy and stick around and watch it, and I hope you learn something and give me some positive feedback. So I bought the Harbor Freight dust collector 2 weeks ago. My older dust collector, I had a remote on it. I sold it to a friend of mine. It was a little 1-horse machine. It was great when I started out. When I had the table saw, the only thing that had a 4-inch dust port on it. But as I progressed in my woodworking, pretty much everything in my wood shop now has a 4-inch dust port. I had a problem with dragging a hose from machine to machine, and so I opted to buy a bigger dust collector. Voted on the Harbor Freight. So far I've been really pleased with it. This is not a review on it, but more or less a modification to it. But I have the problem of, right now I'm still dragging hoses from machine to machine, but with the bigger machine, it's in the near future there's going to be a 6-inch line run all the way down the shop wall here and connect all my machines on that wall. The problem is now is I didn't have the remote, so I kept running back and forth to the machine. Well, my old machine, 1 horsepower, it was small. It drew like, I forget, 11 amps or something. It was small. I had a little remote that I bought at Home Depot. This is no advertisement for Home Depot. But it was a little Christmas light remote. It worked. It was 13 amps. It worked great. 1 channel, controlled the dust collector, kept it on me, flip it on, flip it off. When I got this one, if you're not familiar with the Harbor Freight dust collector, it's a 110 only system. 2 horsepower motor. They say it pulls 20 amps. I haven't actually measured it to see how much it pulls. Sorry, phone going off. Let's put that on mute. General sickness. So I haven't actually measured the current draw of the Harbor Freight dust collector. I take their word that it's 20 amps. So I don't have a problem. If you can see behind me, there's actually a sub panel right there. Everything in my shop is running conduit all the way around the shop. It's everywhere you see conduit, there is 2 20 amp 110 circuits and a 20 amp 220 circuit that runs every bit of conduit down that wall and that wall. So problem's really not with me, and I've got them labeled. Every box has, well, that's a 220 box, but the 110 boxes you see right here, they have 2 receptacles in them, and each one of them is actually on a separate circuit, so I can plug like dust collector and a machine in and have them on 2 circuits. So it works out really great. So as far as the 20 amps, it really don't bother me. Eventually I probably will run a dedicated circuit for the dust collector. Yeah, it's not right now though, so it works. But that being said, I was having a problem running to one side of the shop, turn the dust collector on, run back to the machine, and so I got to looking. The little remote that I had for my other one wouldn't work, wasn't rated high enough. So I got to looking. I could buy a one from Woodcraft, a Rockler. Many of those places sell them. a little remote. Looked it up. Anywhere from 70 to 100 bucks. I was like, ooh. Well, what if I ever expand into 220? What if I ever get a bigger dust collector? I was like, man, then I gotta buy another one. So, having a little bit of electrical background, I sit down, started drawing, figuring stuff out. I figured out I could build me a remote system for my dust collector a lot cheaper than I could buy one. I'm not an electrician. My brothers are. I've worked with them a lot. I have a real good understanding of electricity. If you don't have an understanding of electricity, I don't suggest you attempt this. It is a, you could possibly burn your house down, which that's job security for me. I'm a firefighter paramedic, but don't burn your house down. Number 2, don't get electrocuted. 3, don't fry your equipment. If you don't have an understanding of electricity, please do not attempt this. Turn the video off and hire an electrician, or buy a box that you can just literally plug, play, and go to town. But if you are comfortable working with electricity and you want a cheaper solution to having a remote system dust collection, then stick around. So I got all the parts, and I'm going to go over those here in a second. My old dust collector was a 1-channel, meaning the only thing it controlled was the dust collector. The new one I bought is actually a 3-channel, on and off for 3 devices. I don't think you can read it, but it says I have a dust collector, which is what we're going to talk about. The air is another channel. I'm going to build an air cleaner, air scrubber, air purifier, whatever y'all want to call them. Goes up in the ceiling, circulates air, cleans it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go off Franklin Woodworks. His video, I'll put a link over to it here in the description. He builds an awesome one out of an old box fan, and I've got a couple of those laying around, so I think I'm going to go that route. And then I also have a shop vac, just a little rigid shop vac, all controlled by this one remote. And this remote stays clipped to my shop apron. So 3 channels, 1 remote, control it all from one thing. Now, this is available at Home Depot. It's available on Amazon, but they want $50 for it there. Home Depot, on the other hand, wants 20 bucks for it. Comes with a remote and 3 of these little guys. It's made to control Christmas lights. You plug it in a receptacle, you plug in your object here, and when you hit the receptacle or the respected channel, it turns it on, turns it off. Just to give you a demonstration, I have one of these. I have the number 3 one. This is number 2 I wrote on here. I have the number 3 hooked to my shop vac. So there's how I turn on my shop vac. Clipped right here to me. But I took this little guy and modified it along with a few other little parts, which I'm going to link all of them in the description, to make the remote system for my dust collector. Now these little guys are rated at, let me make sure I'm reading this, 10 amps. So 10 amps, not much. Vacuum cleaner, little box fan, it works. Maybe a small dust collector. A bigger dust collector though, you're going to want to do the modification that we're going to go over. So like I said, I'm not a video editor. I'm going to turn the camera and show you how I did this. So bear with me. Alright, so first thing, this little thing is made by Defiant. Like I said, it comes with 3 of these, 1 remote, controls all 3. If you can see, there's channel 1, 2, and 3 on and off. I've wrote on here with a little paint pen: dust collector, air purifier, and shop vac. Alright, so this is the one that's going to be for the air purifier or air handler up top. 4 screws on the back side. I've already taken them out. So you take it off, and this is what you have. You have a little bitty RF receiver. RF meaning radio frequency. This little thing right here is the antenna that receives the signal from here. It's a 400 megahertz channel. Alright, this is your power wire. Be very gentle when working with this area because this is some small stuff. You got a little bitty relay right here. So what I did was I took this apart. First thing I did, this little tab right here to hang it, I clipped it off. Just a little wire cutter, just clip that off. Then I took and I cut the end off. Just throw that away. Now I want these wires right here, which, cut this off. This ain't but 6 inches or so. When I cut this off, I was able to hold these wires and literally strip every bit of this off. So I was left with a little box and 3 wires. Now the 3 wires run this circuit and then power this receptacle. So keep that in mind. Imagine this stripped with 3 wires, a hot, a neutral, and a ground. So I'm going to set this to the side now and show you the rest of it. This is the other one I made. Alright, adjust the camera here. So down in here, if you can see this, I'm going to do some zooming here. Alright, this is the same thing that we were just looking at. This is the one that I put in here. You can see I've got the wires coming off it. Okay. Inside this box, this is a 6-inch by 6-inch by 4-inch deep box that I bought at Home Depot. It's made by Clarion. It's in the electrical section. It's a 6-inch junction box for the PVC conduit. I think $12. I will link a description in the, put a link in the description for it. And that's what I started out with. I think it was like $12. So what I did, I started out with this piece. I took, and I was wondering how to attach it to here without putting screws and stuff in. Hot glue is your friend. If you've never used hot glue in your wood shop, you need to get a hot glue gun. Literally, this is held to this box with a dab of hot glue underneath it. Literally sticks it down, holds it great. Then these right here. So this one going out, this one is what plugs into your receptacle. Now you could hardwire this in, you could do several options, but this is actually my old cord for my table saw that I used. You can very easily use the cord that comes on your dust collector and split it, but I use my old cord. These little things are called strain reliefs. I will put a link for them also in the description. They come in different sizes. This is a 3/8 size. It screws into a 1/2-inch knockout, which is more or less a hole. I had to drill the holes because this box does not come with any holes. I drilled holes, put some lock rings on the back to hold them in there. And what that does, it's got a little rubber bushing in there, and when you tighten up this nut, it holds the wire in. So I run my wire in. So that's how the box is fed. The other end that you see right here has a receptacle on it. I did have this hardwired in to the machine, but then I decided to split it off so I could bring this box over here and show the video. So you don't technically have to have this outlet.
This wire can actually be the wire that runs back to your dust collector or whatever said machine you are making remote controlled. Like I said, 2 strain reliefs. This little guy right here, this is the heart. This is what makes this machine. I hope y'all can see that. It is a contactor. If you don't know what a contactor is, it is kind of like a relay, except for high voltage, or high amperage, I should say. You have 120 volts coming in one side, and 120 that will go out to the other side. It is like a switch that is powered, in this case, by 120. You can get 120 volt ones, you can get ones that are powered by 24 volts for a low voltage system. Later on down the road, I may make a video on how to make a low voltage system if you're going to use integrated switches in your blast gates to turn on your dust collector. The contactor itself is a 2-pole rated at 30 amps. Now you say 30 amps, that's a lot. That is not what my dust collector is rated at. It's rated at 20. But I didn't want to go with a 20 amp. I wanted to go with a 30 amp. Just give me a little extra. That way this thing never burns out. It's not a circuit breaker. The circuit breaker's in the electrical panel. But so what this does is you have power that feeds into this side. When there's power added to the coil that is underneath here, it's like an electric switch. When you add power to this, it opens up the 30 amp circuit and then flips over through here and then powers whatever's hooked to the other side. So what I used was the radio frequency remote, the little remote control. This device is actually what charges and opens up this switch. So this is less than 1 amp to actually run this machine. So this is only pulling 1 amp. And I say 1 amp, I don't know the exact numbers. It's very low. Anyways, this little guy that's rated at 10 amps will turn this guy on all day long. But when you add power to this, it opens up this 30 amp circuit and turns on your machine. Now, so the power coming in, and I added the switch that was actually on my dust collector, and we'll go over there here in a minute and show you this, how I modified that also. I wanted to add this into the box, that way I could kill the power to the dust collector, the contactor, and the RF switch all in one simple kill. Instead of everything in here being charged all the time, I can actually, if I need to, kill this and kill everything. So this is the switch off the Harbor Freight dust collector. Took it out, cut a little hole, and put 2 pop rivets in there to hold it into the lid. I had to cut the hole in the lid. Now, this has 4 poles on it. You have a hot coming in, a hot going out, a neutral coming in, and a neutral going out. So it kills both legs at once. Now, from there, we have the hot wire, or both wires coming into the switch and going out and going to the respective sides on the contactor. Hot, neutral. Okay? So now we have, after our switch, we come in and we have power to this side of the contactor. Now, we also have to power this little guy, which powers off 110. Now these contactors have 4 little spade connectors on each side. So there's 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here. Or blade connectors, not spade connectors. But anyways, put these little crimp on things, they slide on there, they hold, they're great. So you got your power coming in. Then I pulled the wires that I pulled out of the RF receiver. I connected them back and hooked them to a couple of the other ones on the same sides, the hot and the neutral. So that way, when the switch is flipped, it sends power to the contactor, and also power goes from there back to the RF switch. So now we have power to here. It's kind of hard to see. But remember, the receptacle, or the switch had a standard plug. So what I did, I found an old power cord for a radio or something. I forget what it was. Anyways, I plugged that in to the RF switch, and it was a little 2-wire. See, there's some paint on it from something. Anyways, the 2 wires come off. The same little bitty blade connectors. They are blade connectors on each side, right here and here. That is what powers the coil, which is underneath this thing, and that when power is added to here, it opens up this circuit and allows power to come out. Now, the green wires, they're all connected together. That is our grounds coming in, our ground for the RF receiver, and our ground going to our dust collector. On this side, the only wires that are connected are the neutral, which is on the same side as the side coming in, and the hot that's going to our dust collector, which is on the same side. These imaginary line going through, these connect, and then this goes out to our dust collector. This is hot glued down too. Everything is hot glued in here, as far as your contactor and your RF receiver. Once all that's in there, the lid goes back on, 4 screws, and then you're left with this little nice box here. The reason I like this box is it has little screw holes. Now we will go over to the actual dust collector here. Let me put some screws back in this. Because we're going to fire this bad boy up here in a minute to show y'all how it works. And I don't want an open electrical box. You could make your own. I don't suggest it. I suggest buying an electrical box that is a certified Junction Box. I just like being safe with electricity. It's one of those things, you can't see it, but it will kill you. If you don't believe me, watch some videos of people getting killed on YouTube with electricity. It's not pretty. Even if you don't die, it's going to be a very painful experience. Alright. So, now we have all this back together. We're going to go over here to the dust collector. Alright, so right here is where I took the switch out. This is where your switch normally is on your dust collector. Now these wires plug into the switch. They got the same little connectors on them. What I did was I cut the connectors off and literally wire nutted everything together so that it's a straight wire from the power cord going into the motor. So we did away with this switch. Now, you have to find something to cover this. I took a little piece of plexiglass that my father-in-law inscribed something on, I'm not sure. But anyways, cut a little piece of plexiglass, used the screws that were on it to mount it back, that were holding the switch in, to mount it back down. That way there's a cover, the kids not sticking their fingers and whatnot down in there. Then, after that, this little guy that we made actually sits right here. Shavings off there. It sits right there. So let me give you all a better picture. It sits right there. It fits. It tucks underneath the motor, and it still gives you access to your switch. So you still reach down. You're instead of reaching here, you're reaching right here. You can kill your whole power. All right. So your cord coming from your dust collector into your box. So Now we have power coming out of there into here. And like I said, you can hardwire this all together. I know, you don't have to leave comments. I know my camera is moving around a lot. You can wire this straight to here. You could literally cut the cord that comes on your dust collector, wire it into here, and use the other piece to come out of here, go to your wall. I did have it like that. I changed it around so I could take this over to the table, show y'all how I did it. And I took a little piece of another extension cord and made it. So literally this is all going to get zip tied right here. In the future, when this gets mounted up on the wall with a separator, it will all, I'll probably tidy it up then. May make another video because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the 24 volt system with the blast gate activation. But for right now, this thing gets some little 3/4 inch self-tapping screws into the actual plate that the motor and everything mounts on. So right now that's not secured, but we'll be okay with that right now. We're not going to stick our fingers in there. So now it's hot. We've plugged everything in. Flip our switch here. It's not bolted back down, but all right. So flipping our switch and nothing's happening. Dust on. And just like that, we've now made a 30 amp remote controlled circuit for our dust collector. I keep saying 30 amp. I wouldn't, with this cord, I wouldn't run anything bigger than this really. You need bigger cord. But that gets bolted down right there. And I'll say I can turn it on, turn it off. Still turn on the dust collector or the shop vac on the other side. And also the it's going to be the air purifier that's up in the ceiling. So that is the video on how I did that. Hold on here. If you stand by. So I know that's the wiring and all that was probably confusing to some of y'all. I'm going to draw it out on paper now. So if you did understand it, you have an understanding of electricity, then you don't need to watch the rest of the video. Thank you. Click like, subscribe for future videos. But now I'm going to draw out the actual schematics of the electrical diagram so that people that aren't so familiar with electricity can see it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all, I'm not an artist. I am a firefighter paramedic by trade. Woodworking is my hobby. I love woodworking. I love teaching. I love teaching in the fire service, pass my knowledge on to other people. I like teaching. So when I figured out that I could make YouTube videos and share them with the world and make give my knowledge on to other woodworkers, because honestly YouTube is how I've learned to woodwork over the last 8 or 9 years. So it's my way of giving back to the community for teaching me everything that I know. So don't make fun of me for my artist skills. But I'm going to flip the camera around down to a piece of paper, and I'm going to attempt to draw this circuit out. Just bear with me. I know it's going to be crude, but I hope that you'll be able to take this design and maybe make you a system and save you some money. All right. All right, so first thing, let's move this over here. I'll make sure we're in focus. Alright, so the first thing is we have a box. I'm a little overscale here. You'll understand here in a minute. Alright, so this is our box that we used for putting everything in. Alright, so we're going to make a little thing over here. Dust collector, okay? This is our dust collector. We're not getting real fancy with it. This is our plug-in. Everybody recognizes a plug-in, right? If y'all can see that. Alright, anyways, there's our plug-in. Alright, so we have our plug-in, we have our dust collector, we have our box. So, remember, our power comes from here into the box. We have our cord coming from our dust collector into our box. Remember, these are SO cord that has 3 wires in it. A white, which is your neutral, your black is which your hot, and your green, which is your ground. Alright, so in each one of these wires, we have 3 wires. We have a black, gray for neutral, green for ground. So that is the wiring colors. Alright, so we have our 3 components that are in the box. We have our contactor. If you're ordering one of these 2-pole, if you're doing it like this, it's going to be a 2-pole with a 120 volt coil. So 2 120 volt coil, and it's rated at 30 amps. Now you can get them rated for more than that, but that's how this one is. Alright, it has a contact here, and here, here, and here. We're going to kind of simplify this. There's a contact there and there that operates the coil. We're just going to, I know it's not positive negative thing as much as DC is, but positive, negative, positive, negative. Positive being the black and gray marker or white wire being the negative or the neutral, or the common sometimes called. So that's how we're going to kind of label those. And where you see the positive, positive, negative, negative, positive, and negative on the coil part of the actual switch activation. Also, then we have our RF receiver, which we're going to draw right over here. We're just going to label this RF, radio frequency, remote control. And remember, we have a wire coming out of there, or 3 wires, and then we have a plug-in on the end of it. Remember, our wires, 3 wires, neutral, hot, ground, and the same there. So, one last component is we have our switch here. I'm not good at drawing switches. On, off. Okay. You have 2 poles coming in, 2 going out. This we're going to say is negative, positive. Positive being the hot, negative being the neutral or common. There is no ground on this. So, alright. First thing is, this is how I like to work when I'm working in electrical boxes too. So I take my green wire, my ground, that's coming in from here. We got this one, we're going to grab this one, and we're going to grab this green wire. So we have 3 green wires come up, put a wire nut on them, tie them all together. The contactor nor the switch have a ground. So pull this green wire, the green wire that comes out of your RF receiver, and make a connection, tuck it in the back, and you're done with your ground section. Alright, so now we have our power that's coming in. we need to take it and come to the power on our switch. And then we come from our power on our switch, or our hot, to there. So the switch is interrupting the power coming in. The same with the neutral. Drawing this, y'all understand these wires don't connect. They actually just cross one another. The only time they connect is when we put a little circle right there. So neutral coming in, neutral going to the contactor. Now, so we have power to this point right here from our outside source by our receptacle. So now we need to power our RF receiver with the same 110. So we can bring this wire down and put it onto here with another spade connector. The same with the neutral. You bring it down, tie it in right there also. So now when we flip the switch, the power comes in, goes through the switch, it powers the contactor and our RF receiver. Now, the way this is, there's no power that's going to get through here. So, remember the little extension cord I cut off, a little 2-prong? We had one that come from here and goes to the positive side. We have a neutral, just a 2-wire, so the ground is technically not in play there. And then we have a neutral that comes over and powers the coil. Now, almost done. Now we have a power that comes, or hot that comes out, that is going to go down to our dust collector. Then we also have a neutral that goes down to the dust collector. I know it's a lot. Follow along real slowly, and as I draw it out, it makes sense. So now you plug this in, you flip this switch, you hit the switch on the remote, it charges this, opens this contactor, and allows power to flow all the way through to your dust collector. So that is a rough version of how to do it. Again, I apologize for the camera work. I'm not a cameraman. Hopefully I will get better in the future. I have another video to make later, so we'll hope that one is better. Like I say again, please like and subscribe. Feel free to share it with your friends. Anybody is welcome to this. I'm not holding any patents or anything. It's just something that I come up with, a cheap, simple solution. The wire I had laying around, I did have to buy the box, which was like, say, 13 bucks. The contactor, like 9 or 10 bucks off Amazon. The switch I incorporated it. You could buy a new switch. They're not very expensive. You could add a secondary switch. The RF receiver, like I said, 20 bucks for all 3 of them. For this whole system, I come in with taxes less than $50, and I can control 3 things. People were wanting to know, there was one gentleman that I was asking how he would do the same thing. He had the same dust collector, the same vacuum cleaner, and a air cleaner. The shop vac and the air cleaner, literally, as long as they don't pull no more than 10 amps, you just put this bad boy in line. Literally plug this into the wall, plug your tool or your shop vac, your air collector or whatever in here. The only time you have to build the system that I built is if you're running a machine that has a higher amp draw than 10 amps. So I hope you like this, and thank you for watching. Thank you.